Pope Francis is stepping into the debate over disciplining children. Here's what he said this week that's getting a lot of attention. He said, "One time I heard a father say, 'At times I have to hit my children a bit, but never in the face as to not humiliate them.' That's great. He has a sense of dignity. He should punish, do the right thing, and then move on." So is it ever okay to spank your children? What do you think? Well, joining us now for this debate is psychologist Dr. Jonathan Fader, who is anti-spanking, and Tom Kirsting, who is a psychotherapist and says he's not opposed to light spanking. So we'll start with you. You're okay with spanking. You have two children. And you're fine with it.
Well, I think there's a difference. I think the whole story, there's a big difference between whacking and hitting your kid and spanking your kid lightly. Whacking and hitting your kid is about physically hurting your kid. Spanking is about emotionally sending a message to your kid. So if your kid goes and runs in traffic, you know, a 3 or 4 year old, you can't grab the kid and say, "Oh, don't run in traffic anymore." You know, they need to see that behavior is unacceptable. And if they're connecting, you know, a negative emotion with that behavior, they're less likely to do that again.
Exactly. All right, Dr. Fader, what do you think? You disagree with the Pope?
Well, I more than even disagree with the Pope, I disagree with spanking. What we know from science is that spanking is not an effective way to discipline, to teach your kid. And so what I'm trying to do with my kids, and what I recommend to parents, is they use effective methods of teaching their kids what behavior is right and what's wrong, and to increase the sense that they're going to do more positive behaviors.
What do you mean it's that we know because of science? I mean, I knew from experience that I was terrified of my father, that I would get a spanking. I remember asking him one time, "If I run away, what will y'all do to me?" And he said, "You'll get a spanking." I never did it because of that. I was terrified of it. I mean, it kept me from doing wrong.
And clearly that worked out for you, and that worked for you. And what I think I don't want my kids to be terrified of me. I just don't. I want my kids to love me and for me to love them. And I want them to know.
I know my dad loves me and I love him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just didn't want to disappoint him.
And I think that worked. And for some people it's going to work. These studies are not about you, because you worked out great. They're about thousands and thousands and thousands of kids. So in some things it's going to work, in some it's not. So what we know, though, is that positive reinforcement for most kids is the way to really change behavior.
All right, Tom, we saw this, a week, 2 weeks ago, that kid in New Jersey that took his own teacher down. Is there a lack of discipline in the home that's carried into our schools, and kids are acting up now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in that case, the discipline was probably the reverse of that. It was probably a father or maybe a lack of a father being in the family, but definitely something that kid was exposed to violently in the household. So we do see the lack of respect. Parents, that's what I think, you know, where we have to draw the line here. There has to be a hierarchy, I feel, as a parent. I love my kids to death. They love me to death. But they also have to have some level of fear where they know that I'm the one in charge. Because otherwise, when they become teenagers, like the stuff I see at my private practice, they may potentially be cursing off their mother and their father, and we lose our control as parents. We need to maintain that. That's my position.
Right.
I think there's a difference between respect and fear. So, you know, my kids have total respect for me, and we use effective methods of discipline. We use timeout. And let me tell you, when the words timeout come out in my household, everything shuts down.
Yeah.
So there are other ways to say, hey, listen, this is the final line, and you don't have to use physical force. I don't want my kids to replicate that behavior, and I'm not advocating for that. So if I'm going to discipline them for hitting each other, I'm not going to do it to punish them.
Jonathan, Tom, thank you so much for this healthy
Appreciate it.
debate.